I was always skeptical about ghosts until I witnessed one. What I'm going to tell you happened to me when I was 18 years old. It's the only paranormal experience that I've ever had in my entire life, and it changed me completely. It was around 3 a.m., and I was working as a security guard at an apartment complex. My shift started at midnight, and I drove around the property in my little Ford Escort, looking for any troublemakers who should be out after curfew. That's when my radio crackled to life. Unit 2, respond to the front office. Come in ASAP. The voice was urgent. Whoever it was, they didn't bother with pleasantries. They just rattled off orders like they were back to back. Tell the night auditor to lock down the doors. Pete, tell the night auditor to lock down the doors and board up the windows. And someone called the police. Then the transmission ended. The hair on the back of my neck stood on end. I knew something was wrong, but what? I was too young to have any gray hairs, but if I had been able to grow them, I would have had quite a few by the time the morning shift came around. I worked there for a few years, and nothing like this had ever happened before. As soon as I got to the leasing office, I saw the night auditor hiding under the counter in the corner. Her eyes were wide and her hands were shaking. I could see her trying to dial 911 on the phone in the office. "There's no time to call them," I said. "What happened?" she stammered. "I don't know. I heard some commotion outside and then the power went out. Then I saw him." She pointed a shaky finger toward the window. "Who saw what?" I asked. She whispered, "The maintenance man, Mr. Tibbs. He was standing in the courtyard holding a bloody meat cleaver. And his eyes, oh God, his eyes. They weren't his eyes anymore. They were black, bottomless pits. He looked like he'd gone crazy." My mind raced. I knew Mr. Tibbs. He was quiet and kept to himself. He'd been an employee for longer than anyone else, and no one really knew how old he was. Some people joked that he was immortal. And now here we were hiding for our lives inside the leasing office while he roamed the courtyard outside. Then the sound of breaking glass made us both jump. He was getting closer. "We need to get out of here," I told the night auditor, opening the back door. "He can't get in here. Doesn't know we're back." She nodded, scrambling over the counter and following me out back. The moon was completely covered by clouds, and the night was dark as pitch. We ran across the parking lot toward the apartment buildings, staying low so that Mr. Tibbs wouldn't see us. I could hear him moving closer, crashing into dumpsters and snapping trash cans like they were made of twigs. His heavy footsteps pounded the pavement and echoed through the courtyard. As we reached the relative safety of the stairwell, I could hear him coming up on my right flank. My heart hammered against my ribs. If he found us, I knew that we wouldn't make it. I turned to look at the night auditor, and she was staring at me with terror in her eyes. Her gaze followed my eyes to the top of the stairs, where a pair of glowing red eyes stared back at us from the darkness. Mr. Tibbs wasn't clambering up the stairs. Whatever this was, it was coming for us. In a flash, I grabbed the night auditor's hand and pulled her behind me as I backed away from the stairwell. A guttural growl reverberated through the concrete stairwell and echoed around us. Something dark and evil was coming down the stairs. My blood ran cold as it emerged into the light. I pulled the night auditor close and introduced her to the most terrifying thing that I had ever seen in my entire life. Standing before us was the hunched figure of Mr. Tibbs, except he wasn't Mr. Tibbs anymore. He was something else entirely. Something evil had taken over his body and twisted it into a grotesque parody of its former self. His clothes were torn and bloodied, and his face was pale and gaunt. Two glowing red eyes burned into us with pure hatred. His teeth were long and sharp, like the fangs of a wild animal, and his lips were pulled back in a snarl that revealed them. But those eyes, those soulless pits of burning hatred, were the worst part of it. Whatever it was that had taken over Mr. Tibbs stared directly at us and let out another ear-splitting growl. Hello. And then it lunged. I don't know how fast it moved because it seemed like it took forever. All I know is that I screamed at the top of my lungs and threw myself to the ground, pulling the night auditor down with me. I remember thinking that I should have stayed in accounting. As we lay there on the ground, I heard it crash into the wall nearby, its enraged growls gradually turning into pained moans. Then silence. We stayed curled up on the ground for what felt like an eternity, not daring to move. Finally, when the first rays of sunlight peeked over the horizon, I slowly uncurled myself and looked around. I saw that the creature was gone, and so was Mr. Tibbs. But there in front of me on the concrete, I saw two strange symbols that I'd never seen before. They looked like a pair of backward C's, almost like a stylized pair of footprints. They were glowing faintly in the morning light. I reached out and touched them. They were warm. The creature was gone. But whatever it was, it had only just left. I didn't stick around to find out what happened next. I ran to my car and sped away without even clocking out. And when I got to work, I didn't even bother to change into my uniform. I called in sick. For the rest of that day, all I could think about were those glowing red eyes and that horrible snarl. I couldn't shake the feeling that I was being watched. Every time I looked over my shoulder, I expected to see the hunched figure of the creature standing there. That was 17 years ago. And every day since then, I've wondered what the hell was that thing, and what happened to Mr. Tibbs. Did it kill him, or did they merge? Is that creature still out there hunting, waiting for its next victim? I've tried to put those memories behind me, but sometimes when I least expect it, I see those red eyes watching me from the darkness, or I hear that horrible growl in my nightmares. I never told anyone about that creature until today. I was talking to a friend about something that happened recently. And when I mentioned that it reminded me of a story, he asked me to tell him about it, so I did. When I finished, he sat in stunned silence for a moment, staring at me with wide eyes. "You mean the guy who disappeared last week?" he finally said. Disappeared. I hadn't thought of that. Of course, Mr. Tibbs disappeared last week. How could I have forgotten? The next day, I went to work, my first day back since the incident. I asked around about Mr. Tibbs. No one knew anything about whatever had happened to him. I decided to check in with the property manager, Mrs. Kravitz. She was a plump woman with a tight bun and a no-nonsense attitude. She was always pleasant with the residents, but the staff knew better than to engage her in conversation. She paid us just enough attention to keep tabs on us. I found her in her office poring over a stack of lease agreements. "Yes," she said, looking up, seeing me. "What is it that you want?" Her tone was crisp and businesslike. I was wondering, I started, then hesitated. Should I tell her? Would she believe me? I didn't know. But something compelled me to do it. "Mrs. Kravitz, have you seen Mr. Tibbs around?" Her eyes narrowed. "Well, I haven't seen him in a few days, and I was wondering." She cut me off. "Why don't you ask him yourself?" "Why are you asking me?" I took a deep breath. "Actually, I did ask him, but I think he might be missing. I mean, he hasn't clocked in and no one has seen him around, and there's his truck. He never leaves that thing, and it's still here." Her face drained of color and she slumped back in her chair. "Missing," she whispered. "Oh my God, he's missing. Call the police. Tell them to come here right now." I rushed to the phone and dialed 911. But as I listened to the operator ask me questions, I knew that we were too late. Whatever had taken Mr. Tibbs had taken him somewhere far away, and I prayed that whoever he was, wherever he was, he would never find his way back. Now, you need to watch. Security camera catches ghosts walking through a hotel, or try these other paranormal videos instead.